Welcome back to One on One with Mr. U. Of course, I'm your host, Mr. U. In studio with us, the founder of Ride the Wave Foundation and the author of Wavemaker, Jeff Fisher, is in the house. Jeff, good to see you, brother. How are you, man?
Good to see you. I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me on your great show. I really appreciate it.
Pleasure's mine, brother. Thanks for being here, man. Customary, I always ask our guests to come in from the outset, kind of tell us about their upbringing, their childhood. Where you from? What got you from there to where you are right now?
Yeah, so I'm from Parsippany. It's in New Jersey. Born and raised about, on a good day, traffic 40 minutes to New York City.
I'm from New York, so I get it.
Oh, really? We're in New York.
Brooklyn.
Brooklyn. All right, yeah. I go to Brooklyn sometimes. Yeah. Great pizza. Love it around there. Yeah, absolutely. I basically, I lived in that area, had a good life. Anything for me, if anything, there was any trouble at an early age, it was mostly self. In my career, I had multiple jobs. I worked a little retail. It didn't take the traditional path. Long story short, I got a BlackBerry at the time when I was selling cell phones. Wireless. Singular Wireless, that's an old school name there. Like before they merged with AT&T. So that was a great job. Taught me a lot, how to interact with people. He worked for a staffing agency. His name is Stephen Klein. I developed a relationship with him. Did not give up. Tailored a really great resume, and I ended up working at VitaQuest International, which kicked off my sort of corporate sales career. So I have a project management degree. I grew up with my mom, my stepfather, use that loosely, is my dad, Ralph, and my brother, Bill. So I know the brother beat me up when I was young and toughened me up, all that good stuff.
Goodness. All right, man. I love this, man. I love this. So your story is amazing. I loved some of the combos that we've had about this, but I really want to get into what kind of sparked your desire to address homelessness, in your sphere of influence. Because being from New York, that's not something that I'm surprised by seeing. I used to run New York, Staten Island, Jersey. I was all over the tri-state area. I was a pretty busy young person, but I've seen that in so many places, and we always learn, especially in New York, mind your own business. You know what you're getting involved with. It could be a trap. It's all these things that we kind of was ingrained. So we learn to mind our own business and kind of walk past situations like that. What made you decide to not walk past a homelessness situation and get involved? If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, there's quite a story behind that. So for me, I've led pretty much a life where I was in my own lane. I purchased a business, NCK Equipment. We sell process equipment into food, beverage, and pharmaceutical. Ray Marone, the owner, I worked with him prior. He was my mentor. Ray was such a great guy. He still is. He really radiated that positivity. He was known for that high energy and really being great overall consistently. So I learned a lot. I knew when I purchased the company that I had to get to the bottom of the culture within the company, and having somewhere where people could be a part of not just process equipment, but to better their lives, good work balance, all that would be really key. One of the things Ray and I used to say to each other when things were going well and we were getting sales was, "You riding the wave?" "Yeah, you're riding the wave." So it's pretty interesting how it formed. I had a couple interactions, unlikely friendships. Well, let me scale back. 3 years ago, I accepted Jesus as my Lord and Savior, and I was baptized. Thank you. So when that was an adjustment, a change in my life. I started to want to serve. But after that, I had these unlikely friendships that started to develop in town. People that I normally would walk past, and I started to develop a relationship. This one young guy's name is Lorenzo, selling splash paintings outside of Morristown, New Jersey, and he had such energy. My man was like, hey, he brought me up when I came out. Got to know him, developed a little bit of a relationship with him. Didn't have much, but I was inspired by it. And I purchased a painting based on who he was. But when I did that, he really appreciated. And I know I'm going through a lot, but the catalyst, though, when the spirit hit hard, and I was like, all right, this has something. This is what we're going to do and pursue it. And then it led to the grand vision. The catalyst was when I was walking across the street from where my mom lives. There's a convenience store. On my way back, I felt God, a wave call over me to turn knock on a window of an old beat up van that was parked in the parking lot. Now, this is where my mom lived. I've seen it there in the past. Also, this is where I grew up riding my bike. I decided to push through the nerves. And even though it was kind of awkward, obey. And I went for it, knocked on the window. I do a one word by John Gordon, Jon Gordon, every year if you go to johngordon.com.
Yeah.
He does, and that word that I do through his book for the whole year was encourage. That means I take encourage and I put it in conversations. I try to learn about it through the year. I really, really fueled Daryl with encouragement. You're going to be fine, man. I looked him in the eyes and the energy was insane. I went and I cried after. Well, and then to cap it off, 3 months after I saw him, he looked good, clean, eyes looked vibrant. He said it changed his life. 7K back check of disability. He was at his lowest.
Oh, wow.
And, you know, I ended up doing a podcast on a phone in the library, just straight up to get the word out, July 4th, 2023. Since then, we partnered with the studio. We went from 0 to over 100K subscribers in a little over 6 months. I wrote a book, Wavemaker, repurposed story of Daryl with principles to teach others how to approach others in the street that normally wouldn't, how to radiate positivity. Nerves are normal, the art of asking questions, things like that. So we could connect to people because our tagline is the path is to the person. There's so much to it. Yeah, there's so much to talk about.
I want to get into a good bit, so I'm going to flesh that out really quick. This is a story I don't tell very often. I know that in the first 3 seasons of our initial podcast, it was called "They Call Me Mr. U." It's on all the listening platforms. I mean, it's a brand now. It's no longer an independent podcast anymore. But in the first 3 seasons, I know I shared the story there, but probably haven't shared it since. My wife and I were homeless 3 times. It's something that people who are close to us don't even know about. I don't know they even care to know about it. I don't think our family even knows about it, to be honest with you. I don't think we discussed it. It was a very, very short stint all 3 times. But what that taught us is that it speaks to how easy it is that this can happen to you. I'm talking about one check. You know what I'm saying? One missed payment. You know, it's like, and you can be in a place where, you know what, you don't have a place to be. And it happened 3 times. I think we learned from it. Definitely, but it's so easy for it to happen. And I love to know. Well, I got kind of got a 2-part question there. One, were you aware of the national statistics regarding homelessness? That's my first question. And the second question is, what do you ask people when you encounter them on the streets? What are the questions that you ask? Because some people may ask the wrong question. They may want to try to give them money, and that may not be, even though money may have caused, or lack of money may have helped to cause the problem. It's not necessarily the only thing we should be thinking about if we think about extending ourselves to somebody. So 2-part question there. Yeah. Were you aware of the national statistics? And secondly, you can get into what kind of questions you ask Daryl and others when you encounter them on the streets when they're in a situation like that. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I ended up looking into the numbers when I got into this world and started to enter and really develop a network and learn more and develop other partnerships with foundations. And what I've noticed that there are certain things that aren't publicized, and there's a little bit more, I think, than stats do show within the community. I don't have a guaranteed number, but I feel like it is. And after speaking to people, there's certain 10 cities and areas that a lot of people on my level, a lot of people in my world prior are, you know, my friends, family, good people, just they don't understand. They don't have that understanding. So that's what the show is for, is to provide that transparency and get the word out, among other things. So as far as approaching people, the book Wavemaker is that repurposed story of Daryl, but various principles to be able, there's a formula to be able to prep to talk to somebody, radiate positivity, expecting nerves. One of the things that I've noticed is the approach, is the initial contact. Just like you look somebody in the eye and handshake, a soft intro, hey, how you doing? I'm Jeff. Put somebody's guard down, allows you to position yourself as a non-threat. Also, when you enter a room, if it's in a Starbucks, a coffee shop where people are homeless, enter it in with high energy, talk to the staff, It'll help to lower the mood, or excuse me, lower people's guard
Sure.
or
Right.
open up the mood to be more vibrant right off the bat, and they'll trust you more there. So asking them about their life, being curious about who they are, but genuinely listening and providing feedback. A gift does not have to always be cash, food, or anything like that. I had a great conversation with this young man, CJ. He ended up coming on the show. I wrote him a letter of recommendation from the foundation because it was collaborative and it added to our value.
Right.
You could also, encouragement is a gift. Encouragement is a gift these days.
Absolutely. No, that's good, man. I like this. I like this. So tell me, I'm assuming that Ride the Wave is all about the movement against homelessness and being able to serve people. Is that pretty accurate? Ride the Wave.
Our grand commitment is to build an all-inclusive, modern, university-style place, somewhere where somebody pre-qualified could be accepted, not leave into their vibrant space self. How are we going to do that? Leverage the show monetization, the book. We have a series of books. Also, we have what's called Wavemaker mentorship program, which is proven to work in the community. It's not a social worker where you get 30 cases. Wavemaker leadership is a one-on-one friendship. Your job as a mentor is to only focus on one mentoree we call Wave Riders. Okay. On our Facebook, all the stories we follow, we have Heather, Jose. So I'll give you an example. Heather came on board navigating the systems for about 4 years. She's willing to work, no job. We're able to get her job in just 1 week. Awesome. And we're looking for a place for her. So it really is a roadmap to who are you? Who do you want to be? What's your purpose? Here are the steps. Here are the paperwork. Here are the things you need to do. Here's empowerment training, how to be a go-giver, mental health strategies, but from a business perspective. My influences come from the servant, conscious, and the positive leadership space. I've always been into on the back end, developing cultures and stuff like that. Ed Milet, Damon West at DamonWest.com. Shout out to Damon West. He's a supporter, answers my messages he's on top of his game. He wrote the Coffee Bean. Thomas Williams, former NFL, Winning Edge, looking forward to that program. We're looking to enter the space, but it's hybrid. We also have an opportunity, which is called Wavemaker Leadership, which is going to segue into a new podcast as well. So it's all encompassing. It's sort of unique. And we're going to get to the university. Everything Javon, our co-host and CEO, does is pointed towards the university.
That makes a lot of sense. I appreciate the information there. Now, you may already be doing this, perhaps I missed it, but does your foundation help people before they get to that place, kind of help to advise on how to, I guess, in a way, prevent things from going that far? Does your foundation help with that? Is that something that...
Yeah, so we're in our second training for Wavemaker mentors, though. It's early stage. We're phasing it out. We're going to eventually segue to Project Dignity, which is modular homes. And that's going to segue into the university. But to meet people where they're at in the community, we're going to build trust, because a lot of people have lost that trust. They're getting bounced around, all that. How are we going to build that trust? Is that we are going to help people where they're at. We're going to assign just a little bit of people to a Wavemaker, but also we do outreaches. So for example, right now, today, I got a bag in the car of Narcan. I got some clothes. I got some water, some hygienic kits. I'm going to be handing them out, making sure we're documenting everything, put them in marketing, so we all, have everything that people sees out what we're doing. We partnered with Vanessa. She's going to be creating a nonprofit. She's amazing, out of Patterson. And we're really, so between outreaches, but one of the gaps we're filling in, it's called Wave Transportation. What we found is that people are not able to get to appointments on time, but that's allowing them to lose their resources because they can't get there and they can't afford transportation. Yeah. So what we're implementing is a new free taxi service, very early stages, where we'll take pre-qualified people to and from their essential, paperwork or wherever they need to go, as long as it falls in line with them getting out of it. So local outreaches, mentorship, and doing that until we get to the modular home and the university.
I know it's kind of early, but can I ask about the qualification? I'm sitting here thinking now, because I used to live where you are. And I'm like, okay, so I know trains and buses are available, but some people, in some cases, they can't even afford that either. So what's the qualification look like for them to be qualified to be a part of the transportation opportunity you guys are setting up?
Yeah, maybe it's something you could actually, based on your experience, help out with, because we're determining that. And I think that having a pre-qualification process of having an understanding of, all right, what's the situation as far as safety, where we're going to go, what bags are there, for liability, having something to sign off for if there's any drugs or weapons, anything like that.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and then also having an application filled out prior, and then an interview with the person before they qualify to be eligible for Wavemaker transportation, to make sure that, hey, you want to go to the DMV? What do you have going on? Which ties into the Wavemaker mentorship or Wavemaker mentorship. So that's the ability to receive that information. And then, hey, look, we got big visions. The grand vision for Wave Transportation is to develop a system where somebody could pre-qualify in an app, and then when the technology is available, have driverless cars, a fleet of driverless cars to pick people up. And also, Wave Transportation will eventually be in a situation where we will communicate directly with Wave mentorship for giving rides to and from the university as well. So it's going to eventually grow into a whole segmented departments that collaborate.
That's a powerful vision, brother. I'm excited to see how this comes about. In your book, Wavemaker, tell me what, now, as an author, I feel like we all should have this. If you don't answer this that way, I'll be very, very surprised. But what would you say was the hardest chapter you had to write in that book, and why was it the hardest?
Yeah, that's a good question. That is a really good question. I think the listening section, I have improvements myself. And when I was doing that, it's hard not to come off of like a hypocrite a little bit.
Yeah.
So for me, developing those skills is, I'm much better at it, and I'll pay attention, but I'm definitely more of a go, go, go. So to pump the brakes and to slow down, I had to seek within myself, do research to find things that I needed to improve. So it was almost like a refinement process by doing that.
Okay, no, I like this. All right, so let's talk a little bit about, one more question about the book. In it, you're helping business leaders kind of employ positive change in their lives and communities and environments. How is your book helping them do that? Just out of curiosity.
Yeah, so it'll give the skills and practical ways to develop them to be the type of person that is able to connect. That's what the wave is, to connect, to add value, to move on and ride that wave, to expect challenges, low tides, but that art of asking questions that lead with empathy and understanding, listening skills. Those are really tangible, in the moment type things that can be utilized. And that is what really, those principles have changed my life, because I utilize them and it allows me to connect. And the path is to the person, because we believe at Ride the Wave that everything else other than that is set up to be a distraction, that the enemy is distracting us by various phones, food, things that don't matter. They're trapping us in a system where we're basically essentially bouncing around mirrors. And I know Satan is a convicted felon and he's waiting for jail, and love already won. And we know that we are fighting not for victory, but from victory. And that's how we lead our culture. So when I'm walking around, I know in my heart that love won. And I just we want to bring people into a loving environment, but it's not working. We need one single place with positive leadership, because I think that everybody should have leadership skills. You can be sweeping the floor. It benefits anyone to know how to be a leader, because we need to lead when we're making phone calls for the doctor, when we're going to help out a family member. Life is leading. So I was meant for this. Javon and I, we are never going to stop. We've dedicated our lives to it. We are at the very early stages, need a lot of help. We have a small team, financially getting beat up with the other business because of tariffs. So yeah, I mean, but it's exciting for me that I've stepped into a true purpose in my lifetime. I didn't think it would be possible. And, I'm happy to serve it, and I'm confident in my ability to lead it.
I love it. I want to get into, we're going to probably end the episode talking about your podcast. I'm going to spend a little time doing that. I love talking to a fellow podcaster. I have a question about your family dynamic. What does that look like because of the priority you put on this mission? Just as you said, after your own words, you said, that you dedicated your life to this.
Yeah.
What's that look like for a family? How do they, or how will they adjust to the idea that, this is my life. This is what I'm called to do. This is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. I'm never going to stop, like you said.
Yeah, in the beginning, right off the bat, because my family didn't grow up religious, and also because it hit so hard and I've teetered off. I even myself had manic episodes in the past in my personal life, which is controlled, through personal care and stuff like that. But I had some issues with it carrying over. I mean, I really went all in to the point where I had to learn to pump the brakes. Newly married, or 2 years married, and this happened to the point where it was early marriage, stretched myself thin, put my blood, sweat, and tears in it, all my finances. We didn't do a honeymoon, don't have a house yet. So for me, even a friend had to come over. My wife slept away. Like, it was a whole thing with me. It really was something that was life-changing and a new paradigm. Now I've learned when to bring it home, not to overly talk about it, sort of how to balance it out, because maybe not everybody's going to have the same feeling as me being in the driver's seat. So yeah, and also getting myself in trouble sometimes with expressing myself, but it's normal. It's a part of the lunch, I think. I think that you have to do something outside of the box, and you have to break the mold and be unique this day and age in this cookie cutter world we live in.
It makes a lot of sense, man. So tell me how Ride the Wave is just growing to the level it is growing right now. How is it standing out from other podcasts that maybe kind of like it? Talk about that a little bit.
We have something unique because we have the business that's going to separate into another show as well. So I think that uniqueness and the type of audience, like we had a conversation recently about somebody's testimony, somebody that was on drugs. We've talked about race, black and white. I talked about that with 2 black people, the old co-host and Javon. We've had some really good conversations. We're thinking positioning it as a syndicate show, and then Wavemaker leadership. So that's for homeless, people who've experienced homeless, and anyone that has a charity or wants to get one. And then the Wavemaker leadership is servant leadership and how it ties into Wavemaker. But yeah, man, it took a lot. There was a lot of energy. Right now, we definitely could use people's help. If you go to ridethewave.org, if anyone's interested, everything is on there, the books, the podcast, you can see the show, what our plans are, all our projects. I'm in the red, so could utilize donations and also volunteer work as well.
Okay. And do you also advise individuals and businesses on how they can support initiatives like this one, or even ones in their own area? You can do that from your website as well.
I love your train of thought, the way you're thinking right now, because what we're doing is I'm writing right now. I just started Wavemaker Leadership. That's in process. Okay. And just so you know, the books were a collaborative effort because of everything that I've had to do. But that is going to be basically a program for training businesses and uniquely tying in, because when I had NCK equipment, it was an opportunity to become thought leaders. I tie in Ride the Wave into language and the logos attached. So we're going to teach people how to get to leaders, how to get to the bottom of what they want to do in the community, how to uniquely tie it in marketing wise, how to put it in your language. Also on the back end, how to empower them. Also have a new C-level position that could be a liaison for the missions internally in the culture. So yeah, we're basically in a nutshell, we're in the process of narrowing down and creating a full training for business. We expect business to be a major part of overall the organization.
I love this. All right, this is our penultimate questions. It's going to be the question before the last question of the episode. Now, I don't know how, I guess I'm just thinking kind of broad, because I would imagine that people who are impoverished and in a marginalized situation and they can hear your podcast, I would think they would be encouraged by it. But in a lot of cases, they probably can't get to it. So just in this moment, in the next couple of minutes here, what would you say to them, people who are impoverished or marginalized that are listening to this episode today? Or if they can't hear it, maybe somebody who has access to them, what would you say to them that could be encouragement, insightfulness, or just some actionable tips and strategies they can utilize to help somebody like you are?
Absolutely. I just had a thought based on your question. So one of the things I'm going to look into is getting a little small portable MP3. I think they could be cheap. You can get them on Amazon, where I'll take a few selected episodes that I think will be beneficial and I'll hand them out. But I think that if they have access to listen to it, what they'll hear is they'll hear stories of people who were homeless, testimonies of how people gotten out of also, so they could get hope. And when they're on the show or when people share their story, they feel valuable. You know, somebody could come on the show and speak, or I could do a recorded show. They may never have shared their story and fell through the cracks in the system. So it makes them feel good, like their story matters too, it empowers them. And on the back end, we could connect various guests through guest relationship and foundations as well. And they could get resources by hearing where we could point them in the right direction through the foundations we have on, or the mentions that we have in the podcast.
Love this, man. I love this. This is really good stuff. You let everybody know how to find you already. Ridethewave.org.
That's it. Yes.
Information on what their approach is and the social impact they're making. So I'm excited about you guys checking it out. So if you're watching and listening today, check out Jeff Fisher at ridethewave.org, which you can find him on socials as well, I believe. And he'll have some opportunities and maybe perhaps some actionable tips and strategies for you to help you to make an impact in your community. Here's our final question for today. We talked about it a little bit off air. It's called the CMV question, career, mission, vocation. Not to diminish your work, because you've done incredible work in your community and even beyond. And it's been awe-inspiring to hear this, but temporarily, I'm going to wipe it clean. All the things that you've done up to this point in your career, mission-wise, vocation-wise, even if you did it as a hobby, we erasing it. What is Jeff Fisher most likely doing right now with his life, in your opinion? What do you think he's doing?
I have so much value in, now that I've stepped into a paradigm, a spiritual one, where, you know, faith is where the fight is, but then it's that service. I think that I would just be helping people, be in the service industry, helping people out the best way I can. I feel like I'm blessed enough to have my purpose and to be in the career that I want to do. And I'm not saying, oh, you know, I want to be doing something different or anything like that. But I've always wanted to be an author and public speaker. So empowerment, looking to get into the empowerment space on our YouTube and things like that. Some of the things we're doing or the things that I say is to purposely, strategically get in there. Because if we shatter the glass ceiling, that'll allow us to leave a family legacy too, which is important to me. That's what drives me as well. But yeah.
That's pretty awesome. If you don't mind, this doesn't always happen, but if you don't mind, stay on after the upload and the episode's done. I have an opportunity for you. It may help you get into those spaces if you're open to it. Could you just say,
I am 100% open.
I might have some help for you. I got a friend that you might want to meet. So thank you for holding on for a little bit after the show's over. And for you guys that are watching and listening, we are live. So we're on almost all the social platforms, except maybe Instagram. We get Instagram and TikTok up within the hour. And of course, all the listening platforms, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, getting flooded over here. Pandora, iHeartRadio, all listening platforms will have this show as well within the hour. Thanks again for watching, listening, supporting our show. Go to Jeff Fisher's Ride the Wave YouTube channel as well. Check out mine as well if you don't mind. Love to have you support on both of those. Thanks again for watching and listening. That's Jeff. I'm Mr. U. We're out of here. Have a great